There's so much coming out now that is false about almost everything. And so it will probably intensify about us too in the media. So we have to know that what we're reading out there is very likely false, and only believe what we read in the Watchtower and Awake.
Welcome to the show. My name is Jake. Thanks for joining us on the Sunday service. And today we're going to be doing something interesting. We're going to do a reaction stream, which is going to work in tandem with a video that I'm going to release tomorrow if you're watching this live. Tomorrow, I'm going to release a video that is a look inside an actual congregation meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses. There are a lot of videos on jw.org that show the meeting in an overview type fashion. Jehovah's Witnesses have a video that they will show people, which we will also, I believe, watch at some point in this stream, where they show smiling people at a Kingdom Hall. They'll show a guy on stage giving a talk. But what's that guy saying? That they don't show on the website. They'll show people commenting, but what are those comments like? That's what we're going to look at. They'll show like kids participating in the meetings. What are these kids saying in their comments at the meetings? That's what this video is. So tomorrow's video is basically going to be, I do a short, like less than 5-minute introduction, and then I just play a full meeting. Play a full meeting with no commentary from me. So people like Sean Andrews will get off my ass, basically. But no, I think that there is value in sitting and just watching a meeting and how it progresses from somewhat mundane to absurd and conspiratorial and culty. So what we're going to do today is look at this meeting, and I'm going to react to it. I'm going to pause and break down the rhetoric that we're hearing. And I think that there is value in both approaches. Sometimes these things speak for themselves, but this is kind of for people who want a more deep dive into the kind of stuff that they're learning at the meetings. And specifically, we're going to look at a congregation Bible study. We're going to look at that because the book that they're studying as part of their congregation Bible study is Enjoy Life Forever, an interactive Bible course. It's a very exciting, high-tech name for a PDF file. But basically, this is the book that they use in the ministry to convert new members. So if you are studying or prospectively going to be studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, this is the book that they will use with you. So Jehovah's Witnesses are studying this book and talking about how they're going to use it in the ministry. If you're studying but haven't been to a meeting, you might want to know what witnesses say about Bible studies when they're at a meeting. When they're not at their door, what are they saying about the people they're trying to convert? So that is what we're going to do. We have some real superstars in the chat. Of course, we have Sean, one of our favorite people, always. But no, we have Jenny Bloom in the chat. We have Jags at 2020, Ron Pimo, Deanna. We have Mariah, always helping us out. Simply Lore, Kiara. We just have to give a quick shout out to the chat. But if you like today's stream, be sure and check out the video tomorrow, because I kind of intended them to work in tandem with each other. So let us get to the hullabaloo. So this is the video. If you want to watch the full thing, you can subscribe to my Patreon. It's up there now early for viewers. But I really wanted this to be like a resource. Sometimes I'll do videos that are just more like silly. I do more like funny voices, and it's just me reacting to stuff at the camera. And then sometimes I try and do videos that I actually hope will reach Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to title it kind of the same thing that they have on their website. So maybe the Google algorithm will pick this up as like a video search result. That worked when I did that video about Norway, where I interviewed Jan Fru Nilsson. It ended up like getting in the Google results, and people saw that if they were Googling Jehovah's Witnesses Norway. And so I'm trying to like think of ways to capitalize on that more, to try and divert attention away from jw.org and XJW. Caleb. Thanksgiving tonight will be the night that I vlog. My hair is reaching unprecedented levels of absolute insanity. I walked out of the bathroom earlier and freaked Christina out. I had just all my hair, like it goes like below my nose now if I just like pull all my hair down in front of me. And this is the kind of stuff where 90% of anybody who watches these streams turns off in the first 5 minutes. Because it's mostly just me like talking about my hair and how I want to make videos that get in an algorithm. Nobody cares. But I care about compliments. Thank you, Mariah. So let's get into this. I put a content warning because I did find it weirdly triggering to watch this meeting. It's been years now since I've been in a Kingdom Hall. I stopped going when I was PMO. So it's been forever since I've sat down and watched a meeting with like the comments and everything. Although I have edited out the long pauses between like where a brother's running the microphone to somebody. That I've edited out. And also, I need to shout out Ron Pimo, who sent me this and another recording. It's just last week's midweek meeting. I should have started with this. I've seen a lot of people in the XJW community commenting on this study in particular, especially like PMO people who have to endure the meetings because they are specifically talking about apostates and apostasy. So it is extra culty and weird. So let's get into this. Please no speculation about like the identity of anybody in the hall. Like if you recognize somebody, don't be posting people's names. It can get me in trouble and you in trouble with our Lord above, Jehovah.
As mentioned, our lesson this evening is going to be lesson number 58, which is entitled Remain Loyal to Jehovah. How important is it for us to remain loyal to Jehovah? Well, consider
okay. Before we do this is a meeting, right? If you've been a Jehovah's Witness, this kind of boring, solemn energy, this is what a meeting is. And I want to contrast this with the way Kingdom Halls are portrayed on the website. I made like a little montage at the beginning of this video. There is no shortage of information on Jehovah's Witnesses' official website, jw.org, as to what happens at one of the group's weekly meetings.
Bible education, upbuilding association, and the opportunity to praise God await you at Christian meetings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
The brothers came and welcomed me and treated me so kindly. It was just amazing. I could hardly believe it. And the music they had, that was what touched my heart.
This is the best part.
I liked it so much.
I liked it so much.
6:22.
All the kids are just having fun. Look at this happy
according
family.
to all that God had commanded him.
Aw, okay, so that's how they portray meetings, you know. They portray them as very encouraging, and the music is so nice. But then we get to an actual meeting.
remaining loyal to Jehovah is. It really means remaining loyal to Jehovah. Well, consider the title of the Bible-based publication we're studying. Enjoy life forever or not. Yes, that is how important really our remaining loyal to Jehovah is.
No, okay, so he did a lie on accident. I don't know. I don't know what he's going for, but the book is not called Enjoy Life Forever or Not. It's just called Enjoy Life Forever. But that is the implication. XJW Caleb in the comments said that these meetings are great because they say shit. I can't read this early in the morning. It's noon. They say shit out loud that they don't say in the conventions or videos. Yes. Now, they're not going to say anything that is contrary to Jehovah's Witness beliefs, right? That they're not going to say. Everything you are going to hear is sanctioned by Jehovah's Witnesses, but they just don't like to say stuff like this on the website. But this is the implication of Enjoy Life Forever, the title. You either get to enjoy life forever, and the opposite of forever is like finite, which means you die. So he's being honest. Oh, and Ron Pimo says, I need to thank Falling Tower and a Pimo Elder for the video. Okay, well, just everybody take note. Remove any credit that was given to Ron Pimo. Just go ahead and transfer that over to Falling Tower and Pimo Elder for helping us out.
It really means our opportunity to enjoy life forever. So how are we going to consider that in our lesson this evening? Well, really, we're going to consider what we can do to avoid things that would cause our loyalty to weaken, or what we can do to help make our loyalty be stronger. So let's consider now the reading of our introductory paragraph.
True. Christians are the
Okay, so this is, if you're not familiar with Jehovah's Witness meetings, it is essentially a question and answer. Like, they call it a Bible study, but then you'll notice they're like, and the Bible passage we're studying is, no, it's not a Bible study. It is a study of a publication by Watchtower. This is Enjoy Life Forever. There are the format of this book is a little bit different. There are still essentially questions and answers. And so this guy now is reading the paragraph in the book. If you want to follow along at home, just look up Enjoy Life Forever on the jw.org website. But that's what he's reading. And you'll quickly hear him say a passage you may have seen going around XJW social media this week.
determined never to allow anything or anyone to interfere with their worship of Jehovah. No doubt that is how you feel. Jehovah values your loyalty. What situations could test your loyalty to him, and how can you deal with them?
I appreciate the thought.
So I explained this in the video that I'm releasing tomorrow, but all of these transitions, which I'm trying to clearly mark so nobody thinks I'm trying to edit it in a way to be deceptive, because I'm not. All of those pauses are him saying the name of somebody, like saying Brother Smith. I didn't want anybody's names in it. This guy's name is not said. We see his face, I guess. But so that's what all these pauses are. And now we're going to start getting into some comments. And what I like about this as a case study in meetings is it starts still kind of weird and solemn and not joyful at all, you'll notice. But it very quickly gets into a completely absurd place.
There in First Chronicles that Jehovah discerns every inclination of the thoughts of man. So it's very important.
Right
that
back in
our
my
thoughts, our
day, this was
thinking is
unheard of.
Jehovah's ways, Jehovah's thoughts, and if they are, then that will incline our heart to be loyal to him. So it's important what we.
Yes, good comment from, is it Iron Motor, Lane Motor? They only want the answer that's in the paragraph. If you give a different one, they will keep asking until they get it. That is exactly right. It's a great point, and that is specific direction that the elders get in how to conduct these meetings. Like, you have to make sure you get a comment that covers the content of the paragraph. So it's weird. Let's pull up the book actually, so you can kind of see what we're talking about. This is the passage they're studying. Remain loyal to Jehovah. And so they read this paragraph. He asks, how could others test our loyalty to Jehovah? And then everybody in the audience just says the words that they just read. It doesn't, there's no critical thinking. There's some extrapolation of these things, but the idea that the meetings are about personal expressions of faith and like participating, it really isn't. What's a good word for this? It's just rote repetition. And it's really, really dry. But I think that you'll see, we'll have some fun with some of the crazy stuff that they end up saying in these comments. So I just wanted to show for context, this is what they're doing. They're nearing the end of this book. They're in the last of the last days of studying this book. And now let's go back to this.
Put into our minds.
Yes, very true. And
Yes,
Brother,
very true. How often in today's world we are perceived by our actions and what we do, what we look like. But Jehovah isn't looking at that. He's looking right past it into our hearts and our actions and into our thoughts. So this is very important. We need to make sure that we're completely loyal to Jehovah.
Jehovah is constantly reading your heart and your thoughts, everyone. Isn't that creepy? Isn't that scary? Like, this is how they create a culture of fear, is that you can't even just have internal thoughts that differ from the doctrine, because Jehovah can read your thoughts. And he who commits adultery in his heart blah, blah, blah. Like they will apply that to everything. If you're thinking about doubts with the governing body in your heart, if you think that they're wrong about entertainment and you watch rated R movies, yes, the idea of always being watched. Yes, he's one of the happiest people on earth. And I love that Karen pointed this out. Nobody has any enthusiasm. And while maybe you could have a more lively conductor, like, hey, all right, let's get brother and sister, and like, it would, I think you would be counseled for not being dignified and drawing undue attention to yourself. There's just the portrayal of meetings as being like, hey, like it just isn't that. Before and after the meetings, maybe, sure. But these meetings are dry cult indoctrination seminars where people are just asked to repeat things that they just read in a book written by the leaders of the group in a chapter about how you cannot trust anybody other than the leaders of the group.
This is not just an outside appearance.
Yes, very true. In fact, Jesus told us the greatest commandment, right, was to love Jehovah with all our whole heart, as was mentioned. So certainly that plays a big role in loyalty, because we
some context here, and they've done this before. When they started the new like Christian life and ministry meeting format, they had a model meeting. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, even the model meeting is boring. It's very accurate. And it is.
Yes, he has a low voice and he constantly is
like smacking his mouth, which is very annoying. Yes, it's a very solemn display.
You know, the scriptures talk about loyalty in conjunction with love, right? Loyal love that Jehovah shows. Likewise, we want to show that to him as well, because he wants us to be like him.
Some people will try to prevent us from serving Jehovah. Who would do such a thing?
I love how he says this. This just brings so many memories of being a reader, which is such a privilege, you know. And they didn't let me do any of my fun voices, which is one of the primary reasons why I left. I was like, hey, can I do this one in a British accent or in the voice of William Malenfant? And they were like, no. I said I quit, and I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And that was that. But no, like the trying to make these very boring words that sound like they were written by an AI learning algorithm, it's very entertaining. I feel bad. This kid's just trying his best.
Some who have left the truth tell lies about God's organization in order to destroy our faith. They are called apostates. Also, some religious leaders spread false information about us to cause unsuspecting ones to leave the truth. It is dangerous for us to argue with any opposers, to read their books or blogs, to go to their websites, or to watch their videos. Regarding those who try to discourage others from loyally serving Jehovah, Jesus said, "Let them be. Blind guides is what they are. If then a blind man guides a blind man."
We're going to get into everything he's saying because this passage, every sentence of it is insane.
Both will fall into a pit. What if someone we know has decided that he no longer wants to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses? It can be heartbreaking when someone close to us does this. That person may force us to choose between him and Jehovah. We must be determined to remain loyal to God above all else. So we obey Jehovah's command to not associate with such individuals.
Okay.
That was always my favorite at the meeting, is like the conductor who never gave any feedback and just go, okay. The guy in my judicial committee recording who has like kind of a booming voice, and I described him in my last video as being like a very wealthy elder. He was like that. He would never say good job. It was always just, okay. Oh no, Jenny, you're getting the pit song stuck in our heads. They fell into the pit. Yes, okay. So we need to break this down, because this paragraph, because it was being studied by Jehovah's Witnesses, was posted by a lot of PMOs in the organization. Like, can you believe what we're having to endure this week? I think it's worth breaking down how nutso this language is and how unspecific it is. Okay. Some people will try to prevent us from serving Jehovah. Who would do such a thing? Some who have left the truth tell lies about God's organization in order to destroy our faith. They are called apostates. Okay. They did a bunch of different things. Some people would try to prevent us from serving Jehovah. Naturally, you ask who. But then they bring up a new point, which is that some who have left the truth tell lies about God's organization in order to destroy our faith. Now, where's the lie in anything I have said? We are literally just watching a meeting. Where's the lie in just pointing out that sometimes the things that they say on the website don't line up with the things they say in other publications that are meant for internal consumption only? Those things aren't lies, but they just broadly paint them as lies. And you will notice they are never specific in what the lies are. So they just say they are called apostates. I like this line because they don't give a scriptural reason for this at all. There's no citation. They're just like, hey, in this organization, that's the in-speak. We call them apostates. You'll notice that this is section for chapter 58. I think I talked about this in another video, but you're like way past the point of baptism, right? Like lesson 46 is why make a dedication and get baptized. 47 is, are you ready to get baptized? Presumably, you're not going to move on to the rest of this stuff until you're really seriously approaching baptism. And if you're doing everything by the book, you won't have studied this yet. Like, you will not necessarily know all this or won't have a full understanding of it before you get baptized. I think that's really important. Certainly, if you're attending meetings regularly and watching all this stuff on the website, you're going to hear about this more, but you are not taught. It is not the protocol to teach people about apostates and avoiding all this media stuff until after the point of baptism. That's kind of wild. I know in practicality, it doesn't always work out like that. And this is a good question. Why would we do that? What's in it for us? And Ron Pima left a good comment on the video, the YouTube video that I'm releasing tomorrow, which is like the version of apostates, that the boogeyman version that Watchtower paints is absurd. What they're saying is that folks like me, I'm somebody who just was like, you know what? I just don't agree with the LGBTQ stance. I can't be a part of an organization that doesn't affirm queer people, so I can't do this. And it really wasn't until after I decided I wanted to leave that I started waking up like, I had no interest, and I have no interest in lying. I just want to point out that these things are harmful. And I also feel like, to the extent that misinformation gets spread, which we also talked about on the channel recently, even that's usually spread by accident. Usually the people spreading it aren't doing so intentionally. They're saying that they think is true, and then maybe it gets spread around. But as you saw, a lot of people try and, like, a lot of ex-witnesses try and stamp down misinformation about witnesses because we know that it'll be used against quote-unquote apostates as a whole. Stu Penda says, my wife sent me a quote from this meeting part about not associating with those who no longer wish to be Jehovah's Witnesses. By the end of the week, I was disinvited to a family get-together. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, my God. That is so awful. Well, that's a perfectly acceptable reaction. Ridiculous. So that's the effect this kind of rhetoric has. Witnesses are reminded of this. Maybe they've been getting a little lackadaisical about their association with former members or their disfellowship kid. You go to a meeting, you hear all these comments about avoiding anybody who in any way, shape, or form is bad, actually, and then you feel guilty. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to redouble my efforts to serve Jehovah, and I'm going to cut off contact with so-and-so. I've noticed a kind of different correlation with my parents, which is interesting, which is I feel like whenever they study stuff like this, I tend to get a message from them because I think it causes them to think about me, and they're like, we got to bring Jake back. We got to save him. Okay. I still want to go through this. Sorry, I know I'm dragging this out, but such is the nature of commentary streams. Also, some religious leaders spread false information about us. Who? What religious leaders? What are the false things that they say? No idea. And they are assigning like malicious intent. Religious leaders, some, who knows, spread false information about us to cause unsuspecting ones to leave the truth. And we love ones on this channel. It's one of our favorite words. They are assigning malintent. So like William malintent. So it's not just that some people conscientiously think that the organization needs to change some things. It's not just that they have policies and procedures are harmful that need to be addressed. No, it is that we are trying to trick you, destroy your faith. And faith in what? Faith in what? Not God. The organizational leadership. That's what they are worried about. Now, and like the way they call it, like unsuspecting ones. So they're saying like, if you start falling for this, it's because you've been duped. You're one of these unsuspecting ones who has fallen for the tricks of Christendom's lies. So they go on to say, it is dangerous for us to argue with any opposers. This goes completely against what you're taught in the early chapters of this book about how important it is to preach to everybody because you have life-saving news. You got baptized, so you have a shot at everlasting life. You want to bring people in so they can enjoy life forever. No, not if they oppose you in any way, shape, or form. Not if they've written something critical about Jehovah's Witnesses. And you can't know if it's apostate unless you read it, right? This is the thing that really trips me out, is you can't actually know. If you're a witness, how are you going to know if something is quote unquote apostate unless you read it and examine the things they're saying? Well, they obviously don't want anybody to do that. They don't want witnesses like watching this stream, although I don't think many witnesses would make it through a stream like this to begin with. It's not really for them. It's just for us guys. But you can't know. So all they're saying is like, if you see anything that seems vaguely negative, avoid it because it's probably apostasy, and that means somebody's trying to trick you into not serving Jehovah. They're trying to destroy your faith. And you're going to see some very strong comments from the commenters in the Congregation Bible Study. I also think it's worth noting their scriptural reasoning, which almost is non-existent. Like there's no scriptures for any of this until the very end, where it says, regarding those who try to discourage others from loyally serving Jehovah, Jesus said, let them be. Blind guides is what they are. If then a blind man guides a blind man, both will fall into a pit. Will fall into a pit. Now let's look at the context. Is that what Jesus is saying? No, it's not. Verse 12, then the disciples came and said to him, do you know that the Pharisees were stumbled at hearing what you said? In reply, he said, every plant that my heavenly Father did not plant will be uprooted. Let them be. Them, the Pharisees. This was a singular thing he was saying about a singular sect. By the way, a sect of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew at this time. So this is a completely misapplied scripture. It was not Jesus saying this about anybody who tries to get a Jehovah's Witness to read a blog. Oh boy, getting a little spicy. Getting a little spicy. Okay, I think we have sufficiently covered everything I wanted to say about this stupid book. Now let's just get back to the meeting. So thanks. We have 130 people watching. Holy cannoli, that is so exciting. Thanks for joining, everyone. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And oh my gosh, you know what button exists? It's the super chat button. I don't know a lot about it. I just know it exists.
So I'd like to have a volunteer to read for us 1 Corinthians 5, verse 11.
But now I am writing you to stop keeping company with anyone called a brother who is sexually immoral or a greedy person, or an idolater or a reviler or
Yep. What is an apostate? An apostate is somebody who has been harmed by the organization and wants to raise awareness that the organization causes. So the organization harms people. And when people speak out about it, they get labeled as apostates, and then they are punished. And then you are to be shunned. You are called every horrible thing in the book. I was about to start listing off some of the things they say in this, but I won't spoil it.
drunkard or a greedy person or an idolater.
Oh, they're reading a scripture.
Thank you.
Boring.
So, how could others test our loyalty to Jehovah? Hey, sister.
Prepare to cringe.
Our loyalty can be tested if a close friend or family member stops serving Jehovah. They may want us to choose friendship with them over Jehovah.
Okay, very good. Excellent. And
this is what kids, these little cute kids in the videos that they show at the meeting who are like raising their hand and holding the microphone that's as big as their head, the one as big as me, A Christmas Story. And yes, I'm doing the slow zoom. I clarify that in my introduction to the video. Like, okay, fair, full disclosure, I do a funny zoom. This is what kids are learning. Sometimes we have to shun our family members if they leave the organization, and that's why I don't talk to my grandma anymore, because she watched a YouTube video that Jehovah didn't like. Like, that's what kids are learning. To say nothing of the like violent and sexual and genocidal and incestual stories that they're hearing about the Bible and the scary videos that portray the Great Tribulation and Armageddon.
It is also really dangerous for us to argue with any opposers and read their books and blogs and go on their website or to watch their videos, but we're trying to be careful what we watch and be careful what we read. So we gotta make sure we read the Bible daily and pray to Jehovah before you touch one of these websites.
Yes.
Now I like that because, you know, this sister saying you can touch the website, you then just can't. You just got to pray first. Sorry, I just realized I had that comment on the screen this whole time. Low, 2 elders and a unicorn sitting in a bar. The unicorn looks at the elders and says, "Man, you guys are unbelievable." Low, super chat superstar and pun superstar of the chat. And good question. We should have 130 gosh dang likes on this video. This is even more disgusting due to how they conflate God with the organization. Yes, exactly. This almost doesn't make any sense for God. I got a good comment on the video that I just released, which was me reacting to my judicial committee, where somebody said, God can't be, what was the wording? They were like, God can't be like dishonored or offended. He's God. Like, you can't hurt his feelings. I don't know. Like, he's a God. And this is what they're worried about, is websites and blogs and news reports. Oh boy.
Very good. And we have a comment from Sister.
So sometimes we just might be in a situation where we have to choose. And when we obey Jehovah's command, that might not allow us to associate with certain ones anymore.
Okay.
Watching this with Christina was fun. She is back in school, by the way, so she's has a lot of schoolwork to do on Sunday morning, so she's been able to join less and less, although maybe she'll make a cameo. I yelled down the hall. We had fun watching this because every commenter, we were like, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so from our congregation. And we had a sister like this who was close to us, and she had this, you know, this little voice, but it's so creepy when she's like, and sometimes we just have to, you know, not associate with people who have any criticisms about our group at all, and we just have to shun people, like making it sound so sweet and innocent while saying the absolute nuttiest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, kind of going along with that. I really appreciate the second paragraph because Satan likes to exploit the built-in affection that we have for relatives by making it a test of loyalty between them or Jehovah. And Jesus said these words in Matthew 10:37 because he knew that many of us would be faced with this choice. But if we're resolved in our hearts before we face this test, then our loyalty to Jehovah will be clear.
So we've been given instructions here exactly.
It's actually, I'm thinking about this comment from Joel, the JWs teach women to be small and fair, like that. You almost hear that meekness in their voice. It's really, really weird. I know. Sorry that you're sitting through it now. At least we're pausing it to throw tomatoes at them and make fun of what they're saying. It's almost like a clone to my old home congregation. I know it is in them, and it's so funny how new personality everyone is. Yeah, exactly. Like the new personality is everybody talks the same. Everybody talks the same. You have the same cadence. You have the same mannerisms. You use the same words and aphorisms. It's very, very creepy. And yes, Ron says this is the comment that pissed him off the most. It's pretty bad. Let's rewind and make sure we get the whole thing.
Would be faced with this choice. But if we're resolved in our hearts before we face this test, then our loyalty to Jehovah will be clear.
So we've been given instructions here exactly how to deal with a person who deviates so far from Jehovah as to not want to serve him anymore and then try to fight us to get us to try to not serve Jehovah either. We've been given instructions in 1 Corinthians. You don't eat with a person. You don't talk to them. And Jesus said, let them be. We don't try to convince them. We don't try to work into them, try to figure out what's wrong with them or anything like that. Leave them alone. It's between them and Jehovah. It's not our business to bother with them.
And we got to preach the good news worldwide, not them. We don't bother with them. This comment is so revolting. But you hear, it's almost like you hear how the indoctrination works in real time. Like they read this scripture where Jesus definitely is not talking about apostates. He's talking specifically about the Pharisees because, like, hey, Jesus said, let them be. So we just leave them the fuck alone. We don't talk to these motherfuckers. We don't talk to these guys. Has this very standoffish attitude. And I think you hear a real difference in the way that men and women talk. The men have this almost angry, condescending, resigned tone. The women sound very like meek and like, I don't know. It's really unpleasant to listen to. But this language of fighting with us, that ex-members are trying to fight Jehovah's Witnesses. That's the way my dad put it. I'm sure I mentioned this on stream before, that he was like, you know, if you don't want to go to meetings and just be a bum, that's fine. But if you're going to hop on the other, if you want to be a fence sitter, a hence fitter, and then he corrected himself, said fence sitter, that's fine. But if you're going to jump on the other side of the fence and join Satan's side, then I like I was fighting him in a war with Satan. Like, you know what? I've weighed my options, Jehovah versus Satan. I love Satan, and now I am going to fight in his holy war. No, isn't that how anybody thinks? And this is just a YouTube channel that nobody has to click on. Nobody has to go to jwfacts.com. Nobody has to go to avoidjw.org. Nobody has to join the Liberati Facebook group. Like, they're just resources that exist for people who are questioning and want to know they're not alone. But no, for them, it is a war. And note the language of fighting and violence throughout this. Oh, we have a surprise. Hello. It's Christina and Peachy, our favorite people. Aww.
She really does get camera shy.
She does. It's weird. She's not like this usually, but every time we try and do this, she's like, I just know the people are watching. I don't like this. And Christina, would you say that Peaches is being a good girl today?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Maybe that's why she's shy. It's because she knows she's about to get called out in front of God and everyone that she's refusing to poop outside and driving us crazy.
This is not helping her camera shyness. She is acting like she's in trouble. Look at her.
She always does it. She's burying her little nose. Oh boy. Yeah. we're having potty troubles with a puppy for the first.
Yeah.
It's the first time it's ever happened in puppy history. No, Peaches is the best.
She's great. She just needs to.
Look at Jenny's comment. Christina and Peaches sitting at a meeting like the crazy sister who insists on bringing her pets. That sister has birds, though,
Yeah.
for sure. Do you remember the sister who owned birds and her hair was so humongous
Like
that we
a
would
bird's
that we would
nest.
it
Yes.
was a bird's nest? Yes. There was a sister in our hall who was a hoarder, famously, and like she had to move once, and there were horror stories from all the like people that helped her move because it was a complete nightmare. And she has birds that are very gross, and her hair is so long, like down to her feet, but she would make it up. And yeah, we always suspected she was hiding birds. And Jenny thinks you're like that. I can't believe it.
I mean, she has my number. Let's be honest. I would be that sister.
We would absolutely want to bring Peaches.
I just haven't been at the meetings and won't be at the meetings anytime soon, so I won't be that old lady.
Right.
sister.
Shame on you both. Peaches is the goodest girl. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Thanks for the good luck potty training. I'm like a speedrunner now. Like all speedrunning streams are just them saying like, thanks for the good luck. Appreciate it. But I'm like, thanks for the good luck. And Peaches taking a shit on grass instead of a potty pad.
All
You
right.
might have the best.
All
season.
right.
This little creature's gonna go now.
This little light of ours, we have to
She's
give
not
her
my
showers. No, she's not our light today.
Not right now.
All right, babe. Thank you for the cameo. Appreciate it. Hit the books.
Yeah, I know.
Oh shit.
Intentions in
Jehovah. It's not our business to bother with them.
and we might have the best intentions in arguing or whatever, but it's what seeds they can plant in our minds as well.
True.
So that's why we got to be super careful because
Oh,
those
100%.
seeds can germinate at just the right time, and Satan's always waiting for just the right time. So they left Jehovah. Let them deal with that with Jehovah.
Okay, very good.
Wait a minute. Okay, so let's think about that. First of all, I wanted to shout out, you might be right. That sister, like, and now I have a great affinity for anybody interested in witchcraft. Do whatever. Go with not God. Go with the Dark Lord and follow the spirits of grimoires and whatever. But this commenter who just said, hey, they got issues with Jehovah. Let them work it out with Jehovah. Even though they're saying that we're enemies of Jehovah and we like have lost Jehovah's love and Jehovah doesn't want anything to do with us and we're enemies and we're fighting against him. Also still somehow whatever, but like leave it to Jehovah kind of means just wait for Jehovah to kill them in Armageddon too, right?
The thing with apostates, they aren't just ordinary people that have left Jehovah. They're individuals that have weaponized themselves to attack Jehovah's people to try to pick them off one by one.
This comment is nuts and makes me feel so powerful, so strong. We are warriors. You're legion. Listen to this.
Deal with that with Jehovah.
Okay, very good. And
the thing with apostates, they aren't just ordinary people that have left Jehovah. They're individuals that have weaponized themselves to attack Jehovah's people to try to pick them off one by one. And so we shouldn't think, oh, we can just go and try to reason with them. They are skilled warriors against Jehovah. So we cannot possibly try to reason with them. They left Jehovah, so let them be.
This is what my parents think of me, right? Like this is what my grandma is hearing. That we're skilled warriors against Jehovah. Like what are they envisioning? Their conspiracy scenario that we are people who are like, how can we get the witnesses? How can we trick them and get them to turn against God? We all know we're going to be destroyed by him any day, much like our Dark Lord Satan. So how can we get as many of them as possible? Absolutely bananas. There's just completely unhinged from reality. Ooh, yeah, I'm really excited to watch this. I'm a fan of Phil, and his little deep dives into stuff like this are really good. Thanks for reminding me. I also saw that XJW Caleb dropped a really good video too on PDF files within JW, so be sure to watch that. yeah, the way that they're talking about, you are a skilled warrior, Chronicles of Lucy, for great username, weaponized. Yeah, like we've been weaponized. We've been radicalized by Satan, by the serpent himself. And yeah, like this is their logic, right? And this is what you'll hear Jeffrey Jackson try and tiptoe around in the Australian Royal Commission. Like, no. People can just fade as long as they never talk about us, and as long as we never see them doing anything that we don't like, and as long as we don't have to hear about it. It's their same stance on gay people. Just like, hey, we just don't want them to ever do anything gay. But they can, or think it in their heart, or think in their brains that the organization is wrong about it. They can't do any of that, but we're not homophobic. Like, we're not violent. We're God's happy people. We just think that anybody who criticizes us has been weaponized by Satan to destroy us, and we just have to wait for God to kill them.
And point number one, the second paragraph, first sentence, it says, what if someone we know has decided that he no longer wants to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses? The context of this is the previous chapter. We talked about serious sin. We talked about repentance, non-repentance, disfellowshipping. So that phrase really means someone who is disfellowshipped. It's not just somebody who decided.
Dog, for real. Satan sucks so hard. I remember weighing my options when I was just like, the cognitive dissonance was like water boiling over through my ears, like a cartoon thermometer, Looney Tunes. Like, I thought about praying to Satan to be like, well, I kind of don't believe in Satan, but what if I prayed to him and that worked? I mean, that would be interesting. I don't remember if I actually did that. Now I just also don't believe in God at all. But Satan's not doing shit for us. Like, I lost faith in Jehovah's Witnesses just because of the crazy shit they said in meetings like this, where you just catch yourself hearing your beliefs through a different lens. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to put out this video tomorrow too. Like, it is a little clickbaity. It's like what really goes on in a Kingdom Hall, and it really is just a meeting. And I'm interested to see Jehovah's Witness comments on it, because I know that I had that feeling, almost like a dysphoric feeling of like, is this what other people hear when they come to the meetings? Like, you'll hear that sometimes when you're at a meeting as a Jehovah's Witness, somebody will give a crazy comment. Every congregation has crazy commenters. I think what that does is it causes you to be like, oh no, is this what people are going to think when you hear a talk that's like, oh no, I hope a Bible study wasn't here because that wasn't a good talk. No, it's the doctrines are stupid and you don't really believe them. Like, that's why you have to get a new belief varnish every week, twice a week at the Kingdom Hall. Otherwise it would just wear off. But yeah, Satan is really not a very good boss. He's not really paying us any checks. We're waiting for him to drop off like gold doubloons with pentagrams on them any day now.
To drift away. But this is someone who's an enemy of
Let's get this guy's
Jehovah,
comment, because I think he's trying to bring it back.
That phrase, repentance, non-Jehovah's Witnesses. The context of this is the previous chapter. We talked about serious sin. We talked about repentance, non-repentance, disfellowshipping. So that phrase really means someone who is disfellowshipped. It's not just somebody who decided to drift away, but this is someone who's an enemy of Jehovah.
Don't worry, faders. He's like, I see you, people trying to fade. You're fine. But he's wrong. Like, this is just not true, what he's saying. There's, we just saw, like, in the first paragraph, it says that church leaders do this too. They weren't disfellowshipped. They were never Jehovah's Witnesses. But apparently any doctrinal disagreements they have based on their understanding of the Bible, no, that's just the same as apostates. So this guy is trying to make it sound more reasonable. Maybe he's hearing these comments and thinking like, oh, this sounds a little extreme. Let's remember this is about disfellowship people. But he's wrong. It doesn't even say that in this lesson.
And that's when these scriptures apply.
No. wrong.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Brother,
And I really appreciated the opening image that we have in this study art.
Does this not sound exactly like the guy who called me like gangrene and the gun, a gun in the hands of a child? I feel like he sounds just like that. And when Christina watched it, she's like, this totally sounds like Tom, that guy.
Article.
so, Brother,
And I really appreciated the opening image that we have in this study article, because again, the family is at a convention, a public site, and the apostates are there. They're not just guarding themselves, they're guarding also their children. Because again, these enemies of Jehovah would be willing to even approach our children to give them literature or to even cause doubts to be in their minds. So
No, that's what you guys do. Apostates aren't going around passing out literature to kids. That's Jehovah's Witnesses you're thinking of. And yes, for context, this was last week's meeting, so this is quite current. They're using think of the children rhetoric. What is this? Like, we have to protect our kids from the transgenders and the apostates. They want to indoctrinate you into thinking that you might not have to follow your parents' strict religion. Absurd. Nobody's making apostate YouTube kids content. Like, what are you talking about? And if you let your kid on TikTok and they start stumbling on stuff, then that's on you. You know, I take the watchtower stance. That's the parent's responsibility.
So again, we want to be careful with even our little ones. We want to make sure that they are careful around that.
very good. So it's very important then that we continue to keep all of these points in mind as we think about the goal of trying to make sure to avoid situations that could, anything that could cause our loyalty to Jehovah to weaken versus strengthen. So let's continue on now and have our paragraph under point number 2 read.
Trouble in Paradise. See, like the fucking projection of saying they're coming after our kids. Like, no. Who Jehovah's Witnesses make cartoons to scare kids into thinking that if they play with the wrong toy, Jehovah will be sad. If you play with this wizard toy, which as I understand you can get on XJW Caleb's Etsy shop, then no, Jehovah's sad, the almighty supreme being who created the universe and was able to, form stars with his bare hands like a craftsman, infinite knowledge and eternal being. He's very concerned about the action figures that your kids play with. And Jehovah's Witnesses make little videos for kids to scare them about this stuff. And they're saying, oh, these apostates, they're really coming after the children, capital T, capital C.
Love for Jehovah will move us to avoid having any involvement with false religion. Neither our job, nor the organizations we belong to, nor any activities we engage in should be connected with false.
So notice what they do, right? Look, I sound like Watchtower. Notice. But seriously, though, notice it. Love for Jehovah will motivate you. That's what's going to motivate you, is love for Jehovah. And so the implication, of course, is that anybody who's not strictly adhering to these rules just doesn't love Jehovah enough. And Jehovah, as we know, just means the organization. It doesn't mean God. God, this, perfectly loving, understanding, eternal being who, when you sin, he puts your sins as far away from each other as the east is to the west. I mean, that is a God that they talk about, but it's not really the God they believe in. The God they believe in is an Old Testament God who's constantly, really watching you, making sure you're not sinning. Like, oh, he almost had a bad thought. Nah, he had a bad thought. I hope he prays about that shit later, because I'm not going to forget about that. I saw it. Nobody else saw it, but I saw it. Like, that's their God. And of course, Jehovah is real, and he's my mortal enemy, and that's what this channel is. It's me trying to tear people away from the very real God that you can read about in publications such as Enjoy Life Forever, an interactive Bible course.
Religion. Jehovah warns us, get out of Babylon the Great, my people.
So what personal decisions may test our loyalty to Jehovah?
So up till this point,
Think about this, think about the level of in speak that you've acquired now as a student of Jehovah's Witnesses too, where they're just able to refer to stuff as like Babylon the Great, meaning false religion, a thing that they made up as far as I can tell. And just like, yep, now we just know you can't work for a church just in a secular capacity. I have a friend who works at a church that doesn't go to that church. Like, it's hard to find jobs. And the Shepherd book has whole sections about like, what about somebody who works for the US government in some capacity? Like, what about somebody who delivers materials to a military base as a driver? Can you do that? And it's like, no, we give them 6 months to find a new job. Otherwise they get reproved. It's so rigid and didactic. I hate it. I don't like it.
A Bible study has made personal decisions on their own without having to really think about the facts of not sharing in the sins of Babylon the Great and the.
This is really interesting. This whole comment's really interesting.
So, what personal decisions may test our loyalty to Jehovah?
So up till this point, a Bible study has made personal decisions on their own without having to really think about the facts of not sharing in the sins of Babylon the Great and the significance of that. But at this point, they're going to have to start making some decisions if they will be loyal to Jehovah in this way and not have any affiliation with, say, like religion through their job or anything that's connected with false religion.
So think about this. If you're a Bible study, if you're a Bible study who's already baptized, I mean, they got you now. This is how they talk about Bible studies. They go to people's doors and say, we're sharing a positive thought from the Bible. We just like to study the Bible with people. No obligation. The frequently asked questions article. No, of course we don't force people to change their religions or pressure people to change their religion. Meanwhile, they're saying you can't even be a member if you have like loose ties to another religion. And you're going to have to make decisions. An interesting admission from her that at this point in the Bible study, in the program of studying Enjoy Life Forever, that they might not have had this realization yet, that it is such a serious commitment.
Yes, thank you.
This can prove to be a turning point too in studies, the where he's going. There may be a point, perhaps he's
you're not
still
wrong there.
Connected to a church. Maybe he doesn't go to it. Maybe he doesn't believe in it. Maybe he doesn't participate, but his name is on the roster. He still gets the contribution thing in the mail, whatever. Maybe he makes a contribution. Who knows? Or perhaps he has a job. Perhaps he works.
190 people watching, by the way. Let's go. Can we get to 200? Sorry, not a very good, hype man.
For the government. Good job. Waiting for his retirement to come in. What's he going to do? He's got to make a serious decision here. This could be a point where he could either go one way or the other. Very dangerous if he goes the wrong way.
Keep in mind, by the way, the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses are born-in members and not converts. So easy for them to say. And I remember saying these kinds of things at the meeting as a comment. I think that's important to acknowledge too. Like, if you are an XJW, you've been in a million of these meetings and you've said stuff like this in a comment before. But I never had to make decisions to lose stuff. I just never had it to begin with because I was born in, right? Like, that is a much more extreme thing. I was conditioned from the time I was a little kid. Sorry, I'm messing with my hair so much. Yeah, I guess he was saying that you might work for a church and your retirement plan is tied up for, I don't know. I don't know how many churches have retirement plans. I don't know if that really adds up. I like this image that we have right now. It feels like a meme. What to do with it? I'll let the viewers take this format.
So it could be a mistaken kindness if one would think, oh, I'll just try to help them and get involved in these other functions that are opposite to what Jehovah says. Revelations 18:4 says, if you do not want to share with her in her sins and receive part of her plagues. So there's a serious consequence to partake of such false religion or
Death. Death is the serious consequence, by the way, that they're talking about.
or anything that's
God
opposite
murder.
to Jehovah.
Thank you. So let's continue on now under our section of Dig Deeper, and we're going to learn,
Thank you.
Once again, how we can avoid letting anyone weaken our loyalty to Jehovah, or how we can show loyalty by getting out of Babylon the Great. So under this
Babylon the
next point
Great.
about beware of false teachers, like a volunteer to read, or excuse me, we have a reader for Proverbs 14.
I forgot about this. This is a little blast from the past. They'll sometimes like assign readers ahead of time, people who are like good at reading, or maybe a commenter who's not good at commenting, but they'll let them read a scripture. Very weird, the little dynamics at the Kingdom Hall.
15.
The naive person believes every word, but the shrewd one ponders each step.
Yes, thank you very much.
All of these scriptures, by the way, are just things you've heard a million times if you're a witness, because they only use the same scriptures over and over. I also, it's valuable for this too as ex-member, because I sometimes do worry, like, oh no, like what if I went to a meeting and like got swept up in it? Like, how would I feel? Wouldn't I feel kind of nostalgic or cozy? Like the music sometimes, if I'm doing a reaction to one of their broadcasts and they play a song, I do find it triggering, but it also makes me wonder, like, oh, what if I would like a meeting and watching? It's like, wait, no, the meetings suck. They're so boring. It's why I really struggle to pay attention. I mean, how the hell could you possibly sit and actually earnestly listen to every boring word they're saying?
So,
but if you do, you learn something.
Why are we careful not to believe everything we hear?
This is rich. Don't believe everything you hear. Asterisk. From anybody outside the Watchtower. Definitely do believe everything you hear from the platform. Believe everything you read in the Watchtower and Awake, as you saw in that clip at the very beginning. Like, believe everything that the governing body says, because remember, your very survival depends upon it. You may be asked to do things during the Great Tribulation that you don't fully understand, that seem dangerous and harmful even, but you're just going to have to obey.
In the brief conversation that Eve had with the devil, she believed what he said, those lies that were designed to destroy her faith and trust in Jehovah. And so
Satan
just
didn't
that
lie.
quickly, it destroyed her relationship with Jehovah. So this could happen to us if we were to believe lies that are designed to destroy our trust in Jehovah.
I didn't read it like that. I think it would be pretty hard to like not work at a St. Anne's hospital or something. I don't know. I think that they are more worried about somebody who is working for a church in some like an actual paid job, as I understand it. But it's definitely possible that different territories are more strict about that kind of stuff. I'd really never thought about that, but I don't know, most hospitals have some kind of weird religious affiliation, it seems.
Yes, true.
Get this too. This individual we're studying with may be starting to get pressure from the family, studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they may read things or they hear things. And so they're going to.
If nobody here listens to the Teachers Lounge podcast, it's the best, some of the best comedy of the past decade. It's very, very funny. And one of the characters who is a failed, very sad theater teacher for a high school is putting on a play about his ex-wife called My Conversations with the Devil. And that's what that made me think of. These streams are good. Don't listen to anybody who tells you otherwise.
Say it to our study. And so the am I going to stay loyal to Jehovah, or am I going to believe what my dad or my mom or brother or sister is telling me? So it can be a real test.
Wow.
Am I going to study? And so am I going to stay loyal to Jehovah, or am I going to believe what my dad or my mom or brother or sister is telling me? So it can be a real test.
It's just like the candid, casual admissions of like, yeah, you know, they're going to have to just abandon their family if they want to join us. And by the way, it gets more candid here in a bit.
Thank you.
Yes, we see that everyone that lies about us or tries to
destroy our faith is not apostate. It might be family members. It could be a newspaper article, something on the web that discusses Jehovah's Witnesses that's being supported by false religion or other enemies of Jehovah. There's so much coming out now that
Right.
is false about almost everything. And so it will probably intensify about us.
Yeah, Vash, not to be confused with Vash. My dad's like a heavy hitter elder in the area, and he's been a firefighter for the past like 25 years or so. That's interesting that there's people who are dubious about it.
To in the media.
A lot of witnesses
So
are
we have
firefighters
to,
around here.
know that what we're reading out there is very likely false, and only believe what we read in the Watchtower and Awake.
Okay, very good. So when we think about the source of truth, it only is from Jehovah. So God's word is truth, as Jesus said. So let's now have a volunteer to read 2 John 10.
They'll just say that. They'll just say, yeah, everything we believe is from the Bible. God's word is truth. None of this shit's in the Bible. There's like 2 scriptures in this entire highlights magazine page they have. It's like all 2 paragraphs and a bunch of pictures and links to videos.
If anyone comes to you and does not bring his teaching, do not receive him into your homes or say a greeting to him.
Now, knowers of alt worldly lore. Well, no, I don't need to do a rebuttal of this part because I did it in my judicial committee. The context is the teaching that Jesus Christ came back from the dead, which is pretty fundamental to Christianity. That is this teaching that they're talking about, if you look at the context of the verse. But they just insert it into the lesson, and they're like, oh, this teaching, the one I'm reading right now, and enjoy life forever. It's like, no, that's not what the Bible says. And I've showed on this channel before, like the very opening of Enjoy Life Forever has a very interesting paragraph where it says to the Bible student, like, examine the scriptures and see if they line up with what the book says. You know, like don't look at the full context of the Bible, but just see if they match up, because that's kind of what they're relying on. Like, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses say no blood, and here's a scripture that says no blood. I believe it. That's kind of what they're expecting, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So how should we treat apostates? We've kind of touched on this already, but in the context of this scripture.
So we do not interact with them. We don't say a greeting to them. And so maybe, perhaps, we don't know, they may feign interest as an interested person. But as soon as we realize that they're an apostate, then we cut it all off.
Thank you.
Typical
And
Kingdom
Sister-
Hall L,
And
by
2
the
red
way.
flags is
Did you hear that? Like, oh, they might pose as a sincere, interested person, but as soon as we find out they're an apostate, gotta cut it off. Like, no, you're an agent of Satan. Can't listen to you tell me about just links that I could look on Watchtower Online Library.
Perhaps we don't know, they may feign interest as an interested person. But as soon as we realize that they're an apostate, then we cut it all off.
Thank you. And Sister
And 2 red flags is their attitude. It's never loving. And the second red flag is it's never good news that they're sharing.
I love this. It's just so feels over reals, right? Like, red flag number 1, it makes me feel like my religion might not be true. So that's got to be bad. Flag number 2, basically the same thing as the first one. Wait, what did she say specifically? I should.
The second red flag is it's never good news.
Never good news. You know, I just find that very funny, because I found that my initial reaction to waking up was relief at first, and then a bunch of panic about being shunned. But having the weight of Armageddon taken off my shoulders, that is good news. Armageddon is canceled. We're going to cancel the apocalypse. Isn't that what Idris Elba said in that Pacific Rim movie? Like, that was good news to me, because that's what I lived in constant fear of. And be like, oh my God, I don't have to worry about that. That kind of is good news. And by the way, learning is complicated, but learning new information and like having new information to live your life more in like accordance with reality and your own values and learning and adjusting. That's all good. That's all good news. Kim Sylvia shout out, by the way, and Maria, thank you for the super chat. Their attitude is never loving. 2 seconds before, ignore them at all costs. That's why I love this comment, especially, you know, when you just watch through this meeting unfettered. It's just like, there is not 1 ounce of anything resembling love this entire time for a straight half hour. It's just people saying like, and we also have to make sure not to read their blogs because Jehovah's going to destroy them. It's just, yeah, it's evil. It's evil and gross and calloused.
That they're sharing.
Yes. And so our second question brought up a good point. Even if we do not interact with them directly, apostate, how could we come into contact with apostate teachings?
How can we come into
Especially
contact
now in
with
our day and
apostate
age on the
teachings?
internet, there is many opportunities for the apostates to infiltrate on social media posts.
I really do think, and I know that there's a certain recency bias, you know, but I really do think that there has been an increased focus on it. I tend to remember growing up that there would be like one apostasy talk on the convention, and it was like, well, the apostasy talk now. I mean, they'll have a whole symposium about it, and like this, they go over this almost every week, certainly every month. The subject comes up. It must really be a problem. Infiltrate. People are saying infiltrate. I must have missed the word infiltrate.
Apostate, how could we come into contact with apostate teachings?
Well, especially now in our day and age on the internet, there is many opportunities for the apostates to infiltrate on social media posts, on news articles, sometimes through broadcasts.
They make apostates sound so much cooler than we actually are. Let us infiltrate their Instagram JW meme page. Like, what are you talking about? But this is what they're worried about. Like, this is what they think is happening. They think they're living in the Cold War, but if like Russia was or the Soviet Union was just like invisible and like didn't actually exist, like if there really weren't any spies on either side of it. And meanwhile, we know that like Watchtower does actually spy and monitor and try and infiltrate you know, like the subreddit and stuff. It's so bananas. But yeah, this is how conspiratorial they are. They're like, careful what you post, because apostates, I infiltrate. And I don't know, man, like if you post anything on the internet, yeah, anybody can say any kind of crazy thing. It's like a joke about YouTube. If you upload a cute cat video, you're going to get people fighting about racial slurs in the comments. It's just kind of how it is. It's not infiltration. It's not a solid snake mission. And by the way, over 200 watching. Let's go.
People that are interviewed on a subject talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. So we have to be extremely alert and teach our Bible students too the danger.
It is literally
even just listening out
1983
of
by
curiosity
George
or
Orwell.
reading a post or following down on things, because once they plant that seed, then that's the gateway for more doubts that could be sowed.
Yes. So how do you think
Like a
Jehovah
water
would
type against a
feel if
fire
we were
type,
to pay
baby.
attention to negative speech about him or about his organization?
Oh, well, we would feel hurt
If I said something like Jehovah is a fart-faced, poopy pants with bad breath, would that be like negative speech about Jehovah? Not interviews. Oh no. If there's interviews with a former member, that's the scariest shit. Stay away from that.
So how do you think Jehovah would feel if we were to pay attention to negative speech about him or about his organization?
Jehovah's feelings are so tiny and fragile. And this is coming from me, mind you. You know, I'm pretty sensitive. I'm pretty thin-skinned sometimes myself, but man, like Jehovah is just like, nah. That's his whole attitude. Jehovah all day, every day, just like, oh, the world is doing this and that, and oh my God, my servant Caleb's playing with the wrong toy. Oh, and he ate the cupcake at school instead of not eating the cupcake. I'm sad. Somebody whose emotions are this out of control should not be in heaven. They should be hosting the Lloyd Evans channel.
Oh, well, we would feel hurt if we found out our
James
friends
in
were
chat, I had to
listening
say
to
something.
false information and lies about us. So the same thing is for Jehovah. We want to prove to him that he has our full support, and we're spending our time more wisely instead of seeking out or
True.
engaging in false information concerning him.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, I
So on
forgot
our
about
next point, paragraph 4, we'll have those 2 paragraphs read in the
that
scripture.
he understands. No. See, Jehovah, he knows that his organization's imperfect. He's like, child sex abuse. I think it's abhorrent, obviously, but I'm working my little magic, like 4 degrees of separation removed, and just hoping that over time they kind of improve their policies. Like this is what Jehovah is not concerned about. What he absolutely hates is when Leah Remini interviews people for her A&E show. That's what Jehovah is like crying about, crying in his pie about YouTube videos and TikToks and blogs. And now we're back to my best friend, the guy just trying to make this stuff sound not crazy on the platform.
That someone in the congregation has committed a serious sin, what obligation do we have? Consider a principle from God's law to ancient Israel. Leviticus 5:1 reads, "If someone sins because he has heard a public call to testify, and he is a witness or has seen or learned about it, and he does not report it, then he will answer for his error." As instructed in that verse, if we learn that a person has
I had to zoom in once or twice for my own sanity when editing this together.
committed a serious sin, we should tell the elders what we know. Before doing so, however, it would be a kindness to urge the wrongdoer himself to go.
He is not rocking a JW.org pin, by the way. He's got like an actual cool flower pin. And me and Christina were trying to figure out what is on his phone. I really can't figure it out. Yeah, I'm sorry that I mentioned He Who Shall Not Be Named. I've gotten so many people goading me into commenting on it, and I gave in to temptation. I'm sorry. I did not foresee the calamity and conceal myself. That's it. There's no more talking about the situation.
Go to the elders and confess his sin. If he fails to do so, our
It's
loyalty
tall
to
JWR.
Jehovah should prompt us to tell the elders what we know. How does such an approach demonstrate loyal love for Jehovah God, the person who has sinned, others in the congregation?
Oh, I think you're
If
right.
if we learn that someone in the congregation has committed a serious sin, what obligation do we have?
The scripture in
Should we narc? Should we rat him out? Do snitches get stitches?
Leviticus helps us to appreciate that we are obligated to report it. Now, if this is our brother or sister, we do love them and we do want to give them the opportunity to confess their sins. But if they do not, then we need to remember that our loyalty belongs to Jehovah and he comes first.
Yes, very good. So just quickly, we could just cover these three questions about how does such an approach demonstrate loyal love for, first of all, for Jehovah God?
Kim Sovio says snitches get privileges. That's basically the nature of this comment. It's like, if we rat out our friends for watching a rated R movie, for watching Oppenheimer, we have to just know that our relationship to Jehovah means more than our friendship with any human baby that we could hold in our arms. Anybody that you can touch and hug and high five and have a conversation with, our relationship with them is absolute stinky dog shit compared to our relationship with this crybaby narcissist in this guy.
Demonstrate loyalty for, okay, the brother here.
That would show that we believe and uphold Jehovah's righteousness.
Yes. And how would it demonstrate loyal love for the person who has sinned? All right, the sister over here on the right.
The one who has sinned may make you feel like it's not a big deal or that you're being a snitch, but it's really the elders are trained
I forgot she actually said snitch.
in determining whether or not it is a big deal. And
elders are trained in determining whether or not it's a big deal. Now, any ex-elders watching this can correct me, but the sense I get is that elders are essentially reviewing the shepherd book against their own personal opinions, preferences, and instincts, and trying to act like lie detectors. Like at least Scientologists pretend to have a special machine that can tell them if somebody's lying. Like JWs don't even have that. They're just like, the Holy Spirit's here somehow, swaying our thoughts one way or the other. The Holy Spirit often is identical to just having a hunch.
And they can help that one help to correct their action before they get into
Truer words have never been spoken.
Even further danger. Or if they have, they can help them get on the right path to mending their relationship with Jehovah.
Yes, thank you. And then also, how would this approach demonstrate loyal love for others in the congregation? Right, in the very back center.
In this way, it would show love for others in the congregation because it would prevent them from being exposed to sin and as well as a bad influence that could become promoted in the congregation.
Yes, thank you very much. So with all those thoughts in mind, we're going to go back now to this thought about staying out of Babylon the Great. And we have a video that we're going to play. And then after the video, we're going to have 2 scriptures read.
Doesn't that become the thing? Like, I feel like there were times when I would talk to my friend that was an elder, and then they were like, well, now I have to tell the other elders about it. Like, you can't just confide in a friend with privileges. You can't confide in everybody or in anybody, because everybody has to be essentially like a god cop. They have to be willing to rat you out to the elders. They have to try and get you to go to the elders to confess, to throw yourself upon the mercy of the court. But if you don't, then they'll just rat you out anyway. This is what cults do. Like, this is how cults can operate without having to literally monitor everybody 24/7. Although usually as they get more and more centralized and isolated, that just does happen because it's easier to just have a compound of a bunch of people where they're literally being watched all the time. But when you are willing to confess at risk of everything, just thoughts that occurred in your own head, then you don't need to have actual little policemen everywhere. People do it themselves. You turn the organization into a police state.
So let's go ahead and have
like the United States. Yeah, I get political on this channel.
Right about the time I started.
This video is very triggering, but has a very funny voice.
Started studying the Bible. An opportunity came up for me to start doing secretarial work at a church.
Why have
I was
we
the
not
one
seen
who
a
cared
God
for
cop
all
movie?
of the money that the church would receive. But at that moment, I didn't see any problem with staying where I worked.
I studied the Bible and learned that the festivals I used to participate in were displeasing to Jehovah. But it did not seem possible that I would be the only one not participating in those festivals. These opportunities brought families close.
If you didn't see, I'm just editing out the long music in between dialogues. You're not missing any context. And my plea to XJW YouTubers is to cut these down, at least to some degree, because man, they're hard to watch, aren't they? Like, they're so infuriating and they just drag on.
Closer together, and they were fun too.
Trying to get you to watch
One
this on my
night
channel.
at a meeting, I was talking with an elder, and he told me that.
Interesting that they say reenactment at the bottom of the screen, isn't it? Like, this video is in their study publication, and I think that's why they do it. So they're like getting ahead of allegations that they're being manipulative. Like, wait a minute, that's not the same person in the flashback. I don't know, but this is the first time I've ever noticed them do the reenactment thing like you might see on a prescription commercial.
That I wouldn't even be able to give student parts at the Kingdom Hall, since I was still working as a secretary at the church.
By the way, now this is literally just a thing that I would want to go to. An incense festival sounds like it would kind of rule, but also give me a headache.
That made me very sad, because I found myself just receiving guidance from Jehovah and learning his truth. But I was not giving back anything to him despite what he was doing for me. However, I have to admit that
I
I
have
still hadn't
thoughts!
completely made up my mind.
I have thoughts about this. Okay. I wasn't giving anything back to Jehovah despite everything he was doing for me. Let's see if we can catch her saying this shit again. Let's see if we can catch her in the act.
But I was not giving back anything to him despite what he was doing for me.
Now, Jehovah doesn't exist. They're talking about the organization. Giving to Jehovah suspiciously always looks like doing manual labor for a high control group, right? They will have you do things like clean the Kingdom Hall, obviously going out in service, but also building projects and other forms of volunteer work for the organization. What they're saying is, look at all this group is doing for you. Shouldn't you give something back to us? Give us your free labor. You owe it to us. I mean, Jehovah, I hate it. You aren't deserving of God's love because you're not doing enough menial tasks for this church.
However, I have to admit that I still hadn't completely made up my mind. Since my husband had back surgery and wasn't able to work at the time,
he needs money.
We had our little daughter to care
I need
for.
money.
So I kept thinking, what should I do? Right now, this is the only money we have coming in.
I prayed a lot to Jehovah for help with this issue. I thought about Jehovah's feelings.
That's a really good point. Like, elders, they're just people. They're not actually being directed by Holy Spirit. So sometimes they're just like, you got this. Also, by the way, Vash just like living their best life as a witness. Amazing. I hooked up with 0 people as a witness, other than my wife, I guess.
I didn't want to do anything that hurt Jehovah. When I stopped participating in religious festivals, my family stopped speaking to me. When it was time
What was that phrase that Biden said that kind of went around like a dog-faced pony soldier? That's what Jehovah is. What does it mean? I don't know, but it sounds like an old-timey insult, which are the best kinds of insults.
The festivals, it made me think that they were together and I was by myself. So at times, I cried. I
That's my
meditated
favorite
on God's
part.
promise.
At times, I cried. So serious.
Times, I cried.
He says with a full smile, what is it? Here is what I do not understand about these videos where they are translating from another language. I think that they're videos in English where they're interviewing people, like on JW Broadcasting. I remember thinking like, wow, this is such an improvement when I was a Jehovah's Witness because they sounded more naturalistic. And I do think when they do life experiences now, it doesn't sound like assembly parts where it's like, well, brother so-and-so, I had a real test of my faith when a woman in my work wanted to give me a little kiss on my mouth in the middle of my shift. I don't know. So I think that like the English ones, the ones that I can understand, sound naturalistic. But when they translate them, they always give them the most lifeless, creepy, Chat GPT sounding shit. It's like, Jehovah was my best friend, but I didn't love him enough. What I really needed was to read more of the Bible. And when I did, I was happy. Like, what the fuck? Why? They could have anybody read this voiceover. They could have anybody read it with any level of enthusiasm, and they choose this. This is like, yes, show this to our Bible studies. This will make them want to join.
I meditated on God's promise at Psalm 27:10. Jehovah promised me that if my parents abandoned me, he would receive me as his child.
Fuck your physical flesh and blood parents. Fuck your family. The invisible guy and his special organization will give you so many magazines to place. You won't even have to think about how much you miss your mom and dad. You won't have to think about that stuff. No, Willie Whale coming in with very tragic stories. I'm so sorry to hear that. And you know what's really fucked about the new, like even the newer editions of the Shepherd book, is they're like, usually you don't need to reprove anybody for self-harm or unaliving. But why usually? Why give any leeway to that? Because elders play favorites. And if they want to get somebody on something, then they will.
It helped me to stand firm. Personally, I try to attend the meetings and participate in the ministry too. All of these activities made me feel that the congregation is like a family and that Jehovah is the father of all of us. But I never forgot my parents, so I tried to help them in whatever ways I could. I took about 3 or 4 days of vacation to go help them harvest rice.
I had great help.
I took a few days of vacation to help them harvest rice. Like, no, you like, somebody said like, voice actors faking emotion is cringe. Like, yeah, bad voice acting is bad like this, but why can't you just have somebody who sounds normal? Just read it in a naturalistic way. Like, just read the script like a person. I'm a person and my name is Anakin. No, but they're like, no, read it slower, more whispery, more space between the words. Like you're trying to get a kindergartner to finish their crayon drawing. Read it more like that. Absolutely awful. True. My haters are always trying to clip me out of context, but you know what? I stand by everything I say on this channel. I do think you should fuck your family.
From my instructor.
No, I
Just as Jehovah
don't.
doesn't force us, she didn't force me. As she told experiences and showed me in the Bible what really pleases Jehovah, it made me realize that I had to make a decision.
I think we need to, because I glanced over this, but the really disturbing thing, certainly not the first time they've done this, but what they love to do is make videos for people who are converting about how, oh, it's so hard, how you might have to give up your family to join the religion. Your family, they might be nasty to you because they oppose Jehovah. What horrible persecution that would be, to lose your relationship with your family just for joining Jehovah's Witnesses. And then if you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, it's like, yeah, good. Yeah, no, we're not going to talk to you anymore. Fuck you. It's totally justified when we do it. And if you try to point out this hypocrisy, they'll be like, yeah, but we have the truth. So like, it's literally fine. We're right. So it's fine.
As my Bible study got deeper, I began to realize that I really was already loving Jehovah.
What if like all of these AI like learning things that like can do text-to-speech stuff convincingly are learning from recordings on jw.org, and that's why they sound a little off? It's a popular website. Could be.
And wanted to please him. Before Jehovah, my conscience was already affecting me. I had to make a decision on his side. That's exactly what I did. 2 weeks later, I got a job, and it was close to my home. I was able to gain a clean conscience before Jehovah. I have seen...
I hate these stories about how, like, I lost my job, but I relied on Jehovah and pioneered, and then 6 months later, I got another job. Like, that's not a miracle. I'm sorry, but, like, you getting a job 2 weeks after losing one job is not a miracle. That's like having an account on Indeed or LinkedIn. It's not God. These are mundane things that happen to everybody every day. Your only issue is that the organization has introduced a new obstacle in your life, a completely arbitrary restriction where now you can't work that job because God doesn't like it. I know you felt like it wasn't a big deal before, but now that you're in our group, you now realize surely that God hates it and has hated everything you're doing. Yeah. You know, like the vast majority of people do not have funds to go 2 weeks without work. Like most people are one missed paycheck away from being, you know, completely impoverished or homeless.
This in my life. Anyone who trusts in Jehovah is not helpless.
When I told my parents that although I changed my religion, I still loved them, they started to open up and talk to me gradually. So I invited them to attend a meeting.
Wow, amazing. Now, I want to. Would this work if I tried it on my parents?
I still loved them. They started to.
Is not helpless.
When I told my parents that although I changed my religion, I still loved them, they started to open up and talk to me gradually.
I wanted to send this clip to my parents so bad. I wanted to just like isolate this and just text it to my dad. Like, so this guy can tell his parents, I still love you. I just no longer belong to your religion. And they open up contact and it's fine. If I said that, they're like, well, no, you don't love us. Because if you did, you would serve Jehovah. And we love you, but like not as much as our favorite guy, Jehovah, who we can't give a little hug to, but cool.
So I invited them to attend a meeting. When my father attended the meeting, he said, "Oh,
wait, that's
you
nothing
made
on
a
it.
good decision, my son."
Here, come to one of my
then
meetings.
I was very happy. I still
Very
hope that my family will one day study the Bible and worship Jehovah along with me.
Oh my God. Good to hear. Good to hear everyone clapping. We love it. Oh my God. Yes. The trauma around guilt is just awful. By the way, great comment. Hey, could you, from Crystal, could you interview an autistic XJW? I'm autistic and curious what kind of specific hell Watchtower can be for someone like me. That's a really good suggestion. Never had anybody suggest that before. That it would be a really good interview. I've mostly just not been doing interviews anymore because I'm so... I've been really bad at just staying consistent, uploading content without coordinating with another person. So it's like, it's hard enough for me to do it. So laziness is my excuse, but that's a really good idea. And if there are any autistic XJWs who would like to be interviewed, feel comfortable with that, please do email me. There's also just always a consideration that I have about like, I don't know that you can talk about trauma without exploiting it in a way. Like, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. And I think it can be a hard line sometime between capitalizing on someone's trauma for content and raising awareness. And it's something that I'm always just fighting with internally on my head. So I just kind of landed on like, maybe just no interviews, just so I don't have to worry about that. But it's not good because I really like doing interviews. But that was a good question. Feel free to email me. My link's in the description to most videos. It's probably not in this one yet, but I'll put it in there after the stream.
So before we discuss the video, I'd like to just have Brother Burnett read for us Luke 4:8 and Revelation 18:4 and 5.
In reply, Jesus said to him, "It is written, it is Jehovah your God you must worship, and it is to him alone you must render sacred service."
Now, Maria, I just said I
and
have
Revelation
a hard time
18:4 and 5 reads, "And I heard another voice out of heaven say, Get out of her, my people, if you do not want to share with her in her sins, and if you do not want to receive part of her plagues. For her sins have massed together clear up to heaven, and God has called her acts of injustice to mind."
Thank you.
Yeah, if you share in the sins of false religion, you will be killed. This is why they're hardcore about holidays. They think they're all an affront to God and based in false religion and paganism and whatever. And if you put up a certain kind of tree in your house, that God's gonna be like, aha, I don't like the origin of that tree. And now you are not going to get to live in the worldwide zoo I'm about to create called Paradise Earth, where everyone wears khaki pants and carries a basket of fruit to a picnic bench, and we play guitar and sing kingdom songs in between cleaning up dead bodies and building new kingdom halls.
So in thinking about the video with the sister, what decision did she have to make? And then what ended up being the result of that decision? Sister?
Well, for her, making the decision to
True.
totally leave behind false religion, even just to work at a church,
Did I say,
meant
Kim, you can
that
interview
she
me
might be
anytime.
endangering her own family because of their financial.
By the way, if you ever want to interview me, that is very easy, because then all I have to do is show up and talk, which obviously, no problem. No problem for me. So feel free to ask for an interview. Asking to be interviewed, that involves work. That involves me getting off my ass and coordinating things. This is low effort content.
Situation, but her loyalty to Jehovah won out, and she saw how Jehovah answered her prayers. She got another job, but it did take faith and loyalty on her part to make the right decision.
Thank you very much. Excellent. And so
This is
also
just
in
literally
the
true.
case of the brother, what personal decision did he have to make, and what was the result?
Well, in his case, he had to make the decision not to celebrate the holidays and festivals with his family like he normally did. But he held firm, yet he still reassured his parents that he loved them, and eventually had the joy of reestablishing communication with them, as well as his father also attended one of the meetings.
Welcome.
Yes, excellent. So
anytime.
Really, when we think about making these decisions, it really help this brother and sister really to have a clean conscience before Jehovah, and also to basically demonstrate their loyalty to Jehovah.
It really is. It's just like, oh my God, we're just so much better than everybody else. Aren't we just so much better? Like, imagine being in any other religion. It would fucking suck. You would be killed soon by Jehovah. I mean, maybe we will, because only Jehovah can read hearts, and maybe I'm not living up to his standards, and so I might be killed anyway. But at least I have a better shot than those Catholics. It really is just a big wank fest, isn't it? Well, that was a terrible British accent. I'm going to try again later. By the way, good fucking question. Why not just start looking for a new job before she quit her old one? These stories are so stupid. Like, is this the first time this has ever occurred to her? Like, well, I must quit now and look for a job later. I've never done that. I've never quit a job without having something else lined up. Wild. Very irresponsible of these Bible students of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So some people may say, I need to know what the apostates are saying about Jehovah's Witnesses so I can defend the truth.
Yeah.
But really, as we've learned, that really isn't the case. It's not wise.
Don't do that.
As we've was mentioned earlier too, that basically their only goal is to tear down, not to build up. And as regards to our questions about what can we do to be strong, to avoid things that would cause us to be weak in our loyalty to Jehovah or strong, we've considered really two.
Look, people persecute us, and all we're saying is that Jehovah is going to destroy every government and church and institution on earth very soon, other than us. That's all we're saying. We have this message of love about how God's going to kill everyone except for us, and they're trying to say we're doing something wrong. It's absolutely crazy. Kim says if it's the truth, it will stand to scrutiny. That's the thing. They have no argument against that very simple fact.
Main areas, one having to do, of course, with our remaining free from Babylon the Great, and also remaining free from any bad association or those that have left Jehovah. And certainly, as we think about the opportunity that we have to continue to remain loyal to Jehovah, we also make Jehovah happy, because he can, of course, show and demonstrate to Satan, who has challenged his sovereignty and his loyalty. And therefore, certainly that is an opportunity for us to bring praise and honor to Jehovah.
Certainly it is.
So now let's give our attention back to our chairman.
Thank you for that.
I remember just being on the platform when I had to give a summary of a talk like that, and you have this feeling like you are talking out of your ass. Like you're just saying nothing. I remember having that feeling sometimes. I wanted to just show off the end of this meeting because this guy has a real, I don't know, used car salesman vibe about
Thank
him.
you for all your comments too. So we learned a lot tonight, didn't we?
He's doing what I'm
Yeah. When we communicate with our family, be patient. Wait for the right time to speak. Be tactful and respectful, like Esther. Be open and honest. And we learned how to deal with a bully and how to
I love his
avoid-
face.
And we learned how to deal with a bully
Bully.
and how to avoid letting anyone weaken our loyalty to Jehovah. Next week, we'll learn how Mordecai used his authority unselfishly, and we'll learn when to take the initiative to contact an elder. That's the end of our announcements and our concluding song now. Song 124, Ever Loyal.
The first time I attended a meeting, I felt very happy. The atmosphere was so good. I've never seen anything like it anywhere else.
Thanks for yeah. So the rest of this is the video. It's releasing tomorrow. So please watch it when it comes out. At least watch my intro because it's good. It's a good intro. But anyway, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about was that talk. I think that there's value in just breaking down the rhetoric of these comments because they're just empty. The empty wisdoms, the empty reasonings of Jehovah's Witnesses. How to deal with the bully, bully them back. Yeah, like what is this if not bullying? Everybody else sucks. They're enemies. They're infiltrating our Instagram and X accounts. No, I've never said X instead of Twitter before. Felt bad. Didn't like it. But it's very conspiratorial and weird. Thank you all for joining. We did get over 200 people watching, which was super fun. And yes, all sorts of MLM sales pitch vibes. To me, what's really wild about this is like, what is the difference between that and like just a Scientology seminar? It's to me, the effect of watching that straight through with no commentary is also valuable because there's no fun. It's just the compounding effect of hearing culty stuff more and more, and it escalates into the point where that guy is talking about how we're trained warriors against God and not to deal with this under any circumstances. So thank you for joining. And I think I got a good suggestion for what I can do for a sign off. I need to look into my email and remember who suggested this. But in the comments of this video, so not the chat, but when I end it, and there's just a regular comment section, give me a suggestion of something to say in the voice of one of the governing body members or helpers or somebody from jw.org, since I like to do little voices, and I will read that and shout it out as the closing of the next stream. So that is what we're going to do. But I forgot to do that last week, so I don't have one. All I've got is thank you.